Good morning, everyone. I'm so glad to be with you today. I am sitting here in the upstairs media room in a new house that we just moved into. It's very exciting, but of course, some things are not hung up on the walls and some boxes have not yet been unpacked. It's a lot of work to move into a new place. So I would like to share with you some of the things that are upstairs here in my media room. If you'll look to the other window in our recording, you'll see some of the books on my bookshelf. So upstairs I have lots of wonderful books appropriate for children, and some of them are stories that are made up. They're fiction stories about adventures and different places and times, and some of my stories are about real people. Those stories are true, and they tell us about the events and lives of people who lived in the past. Some of my stories teach you things. I have a book about music and all the interesting and wonderful things about music, and lots of other stories. My favorite story on my bookshelf is called At the Back of the North Wind. Maybe some of you have heard of that one, by the author George MacDonald, who is an inspiration to C.S. Lewis. Today we're going to talk a little bit about another book, however, the most important book, in fact. This book is called the Bible. And the Bible teaches us many things, many wonderful things, things that mankind needs to know. And I'm going to share with you a little bit from a book that is very old, not as old as the Bible. It was made like in the 20s, and it's called Readings for the Home Circle. And this is what this book has to say about the Bible. It says the Bible contains proof in itself of its divine origin. No other book can answer the questionings of the mind or satisfy the longings of the heart as does the Bible. It is adapted to every age and condition of life and is full of that knowledge which enlightens the mind and sanctifies the soul. In the Bible, we have a revelation of the living God, received by faith. It has power to transform the life. During all its history, a divine watch care has been over it and preserved it for the world. These are things we know are certain about the Bible, that it is true and that it was inspired by God Himself. So today, let's learn a little bit about the creation story. It is the very first one in the Bible. And you know, sometimes when we say story, we think of things that have been made up. But in the Bible, the stories are simply reflective of real people that lived long ago, and they teach us something. So these stories are, in fact, every one true. So this book is formatted in such a way that there are questions and answers. And I think this is a wonderful way to learn things and to have time for discussion. Maybe you and your family can talk about the things that we discussed today. First off, it says creation and the Creator. The question says, by whom were the heavens and the earth created? In the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth. Genesis 1:1. So our very first question can be answered by the Bible itself in its very first book, very first chapter, very first verse. Through whom did God create all things? For by Him, the Son, were all things created that are in heaven and that are in earth, visible and invisible, whether they be thrones or dominions or principalities or powers, all things were created by Him and for Him. This is from a later book in the Bible called Colossians, chapter 1, verse 16. All things were made by Him, through Him, and without Him was not anything made that was made. John 1:3, which is a gospel book. Also can be found in Hebrews 1:1 and 2. Maybe you and your family would like to look up those verses and read them aloud together. But before we sing our song about all the things that God created, I would love for you to listen to this. This is called Beautiful Bible Stories, and this book was made in the 60s. And it tells us a little bit more about the creation. the beginning of things. From the very beginning, there has been a God. Even before there was a world or the sky or animals or people, God was living, for he was the one who made them all. Because there was darkness everywhere, God first created or made light. As its brightness shone through the dark, he was pleased and knew that it was good. He called this light day. But God knew that darkness was needed also, so he allowed some of it to stay and called it night. These God created on the same day, the first day of creation. On the second day, God created the air that is all around us. When we look up as far as we can see, the air seems to be blue. And we call this air that God made the sky or heavens. Next, God gathered together the waters to form oceans, rivers, and lakes, and separated them from the dry land. On the dry land, he caused the grass and trees and plants to grow and make it green and lovely. As the third day ended, our earth was beginning to look like it does to us now. The sun and moon were created on the fourth day to brighten the day and the night. Even the twinkling starlights were set in place by God's hand on this day. The fifth day, God brought forth living things to fill the water and the air, fish for the seas and birds for the heavens. Then on the sixth day, more living things were made by him. Every sort of animal that lives on the earth, every kind you can imagine. As this sixth and last day of the creation was ending, God made man. The Bible says that he made this man in his image, or somewhat like himself. This means that the man was to be higher than the animals and to rule over them. God placed this man in the wonderful world that he had made. For 6 days, God had worked to finish his creation. On the seventh day, he looked at all that he had made. The day with the sun and the night with the moon, the seas filled with fish and the air with birds, the earth covered with plants and animals of every sort, and a man in his own image. And God knew that it was good. He blessed this day and rested from his work. Here's some questions now that you and your family could talk about together. How long has God lived? What did God call the light he made on the first day of creation? The darkness? What did God do with the water that covered the earth? Name 3 shining lights God put in the sky on the fourth day. Name some living things God placed, first in the water, second in the air, and last on the dry ground. What was the last and greatest thing God created? And what did God do after he finished his work? A few years ago, I wrote some songs based on questions and answers. Perhaps some of you remember this song from that time, and I thought we might sing it together today. Who made you? God made me. What else did God make? Everything, everything. Why did God make you and everything? For his own glory. Amen. Now that you heard me sing it, let's sing it together. Who made you? God made me. What else did God make? Everything, everything. Why did God make you and everything? For his own glory. Amen. I hope you've enjoyed our Bible time together today. Don't forget to go back and listen to some of those questions and answer them as a family. And I do pray that you would be blessed and enjoy this wonderful day that God has made.